All right, team. We are back in the Fireside PM podcast with Alan Stein, who is we're both former Googlers. You've been around a number of the usual suspects, but I'll let you introduce yourself. Welcome to the show, Alan.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Tom, for having me. Always appreciate talking to other Zooglers, as we call ourselves. So, yeah, I've worked for 21 companies or in 29 jobs, had 38 bosses. I was at Google, I was at Facebook, Salesforce, led customer success, operations, sales, marketing, finance teams. And now what I do is I accelerate careers. I help people get better jobs quickly, confidently, and with lots more money.
Yeah, that all sounds good. Before we get into how you do that, I'm quite curious. Like, what if you had to give like a one-liner or a kind of like one unique thing that was kind of really special about some of those companies that you worked at? Like, what comes to mind?
I I think my proactive decision making of choosing them, like I didn't choose Google per se, but really being very thoughtful with my approach of choosing companies or industries or organizations that were top notch. So even if I was a little fish in a big pond, that some of that water would rub off on me or absorb into me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm ruining the analogy here,
No,
but
I got you. What is that? Osmosis? I think that
osmosis, yeah, something like that.
Do you like I'm guessing the cultures of, let's just say, Google, Facebook, and Salesforce, I'm guessing they were pretty different, or were they similar?
There were subtle differences.
Mhm.
So I think Google, I still love Google. Of all the companies I've worked for, is still my favorite. I thought they were always the most self-critical. And I think even if you think about like the TGIFs that I don't know if they still have them, the Thursday or Friday question and answers where you would ask Larry and Sergey and now Sundar really tough questions. I always appreciated that openness and harsh self-assessment at Google. Whereas Facebook, I felt like it was a lot more Kool-Aid drinking from the fountain, and Salesforce also some more Kool-Aid drinking. And they're also very differently driven companies, whereas Google's like an engineering first company. I think Facebook is a product first or Zuck first company. And I think Salesforce is a sales and marketing first company, also driven by Benioff, the CEO there.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's super cool. And it kind of aligns with what I observed in my time at Google, and certainly have friends who've been through Facebook and Salesforce as well, and they say similar things about those places in terms of the uniqueness of them. Do you what's your read on the current kind of state of people's career management? It's kind of like a weird couple years, and we haven't seen this kind of environment. The last time I can think of might have been maybe after the financial crisis. At the same time, there's a lot of excitement around AI. What's your read on how things are looking?
Yeah, it's interesting times, and I don't know how unique it is. Like the economy goes up, it goes down, and I don't know. Like I'm 50 years old. Am I older or younger than you?
We're the same.
Okay, same. So I was here during 2001. Like
Yep.
there was a financial crisis then, and we had September 11th, huge drop there. I saw lots of layoffs there. 2008 financial crisis. I thought both of those were scarier for me going through them, like
Mm-hmm.
than what I've seen in like when I that are occurring in like 2023. And I was never impacted by any of those directly myself, but I saw other people around me. I saw my bonuses get cut when I was at American Express. No bonuses during 2008, which was and no 401k match, but I kept my job. So I think it just ebbs and flows. I think there are some very systemic changes that are occurring in the work environment now with AI and how that is disintermediating humans from a lot of things, and it will be very interesting to see how those humans are redeployed. I have some ideas for it, but I'm not in charge.
Yeah, one thing that I think is potentially a little bit different this time around versus maybe the financial crisis was, I think, when we were like, if you were in sort of that blue chip big tech company, yeah, maybe you wouldn't get as much headcount. Maybe the bonus, the company multiplier would be a little lower. Wouldn't be as much promo budget. But certainly, I don't think Google has had the number of layoffs that it's had in the past, right? Like this is kind of new territory for a lot of Googlers. And I think for me, it was like, wow, this was previously a place where you're like, okay, once you've made it here, you've made it. And as long as you deliver, against the ladder, you'll be fine. And I think today, like, no one's like safe.
Yeah, I think that's actually healthy, because anyone who ever signed a contract at Google or any other company, it says quite clearly that you're employed at will.
That's
And
true.
Google's contract, actually, which is like my highest rated YouTube video where I dissected Google offer letter, Google says it in two different spots that you're employed at will, and one place in all caps. So I think it's almost healthy in some degree to remind people that they're employed at will. And just as you, as an employee, can get your ass fired for any reason at any time by the company, it's also your will to always be looking for greener pastures. And I think it's a good reminder that people should always keep their resume fresh, always be open to other opportunities, because tomorrow any of us can get an email from corporate overlords that your access is denied and your badge no longer works here and you no longer have a job. So it kind of sucks to a degree, but it's just really demonstrating the reality of what everybody has signed on to agree to.
Alan, what advice do you have for people who, let's say, we'll talk about two classes of people. There's the folks that are working and maybe they've seen some of their colleagues laid off, but they're still in the boat. What advice do you have for them? Should they just, hey, do a great job, hope that they don't get affected, or do you advocate for a more proactive approach? What advice do you have for them?
I would say both. You want to do good in your job. You want to do well in your job. You want the opportunity to move up within the organization, to get paid more, to get promoted. But you should also always be looking. Always keep your LinkedIn open to work, not the green circle, which is exposed to 1 billion LinkedIn users, but the one that just is indicated to recruiters out there. Always be open to listening to offers. When I was at Google, I was really happy there, but I would get interviews occasionally. I would get incoming and I would take every one. Like, I spoke to LinkedIn for a role and I found out quite quickly that they weren't able to match the comp that I was getting paid at Google. I spoke to Bridgewater and they liked me, but they didn't have a role available then. And I spoke to a lot of other companies. So just, even if you are safe, ABL, always be looking. You don't need to take it, but keep your interview skills fresh. Understand what your value is on the open market, and don't wait for someone else to make a decision about your career. You take ownership and you own your career.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice. I think there's also another benefit, which is some people may assume that, hey, it's a tough market, but I've got like super unique skills, credentials, whatever. And doing some of these like informational or kind of exploratory conversations can be kind of humbling, where you're like, oh, wait a minute, I didn't get automatically picked for the next round. So it's kind of good to kind of do a little mark to market test from time to time, even if you're not actively looking.
And it's lower pressure too. So if you
Yep.
don't get the job, you still have your BATNA, your best alternative to negotiated agreement, your plan B. So yeah, it's less pressure.
Yeah. What about Alan, for the folks who, I don't know how many there are. There's probably like maybe 100,000, a couple 100,000 tech professionals who might have been working at the December of 2022, and then they got caught up in the layoffs in 23. A lot of those folks they've never been in this situation before. What advice do you have for them?
So come to our next webinar, because that's what we do. We teach people how to do that. But essentially, first, generally, you got to be proactive. In any market, I suggest you be proactive, but especially in this market where jobs are not coming into most people's laps, you got to be proactive. So identify where you want to go, understand where your strengths are, and lean into those strengths. If you're good at sales and you got laid off from Facebook, you can still do sales at Salesforce or at a startup. Selling is selling. Then the next key element is really building relationships, reaching out to people, earning referrals. I don't know how you've gotten your jobs, Tom. 24 out of my 29 jobs came because someone was nice enough to put in a kind word on my behalf. I had to interview for almost all of them, except for a couple because of nepotism. I didn't need to interview for. But you got to build a network, and you got to build those relationships, which will get you past the ATS and get you past the recruiter.
Yeah, that ATS step is so for folks who don't know, the applicant tracking system, like the initial screening process that is almost always not done by anyone close to the hiring manager, but someone on a recruiting org who probably has like 12 other roles that they're processing. It is really hard to get through there, and there are, I'm sure, are tons of false negatives.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I think most of my roles, aside from earlier in my career where it was like, college recruiting process, were through referrals, where it was like someone I worked with is working at some other company, and they either reach out to me or I'm interested in that company, and they're like, oh yeah, sure, I'll definitely like connect you right away with the hiring manager. And you just skip as much of that early process as you can.
Exactly. The competition is fierce. It always was fierce at top companies. Like when I was opening roles like Google or Facebook, when we'd post a role, within a week, we would have hundreds of applicants. Maybe in like 2 weeks, we'd be approaching 1,000 applicants. And the recruiter, to your point, is not going to spend all that time looking at every application. So if one comes in through a referral channel, or the recruiter will use some quick signals of, hey, Tom went to HBS, Harvard Business School. So yeah, he's probably a good person that we can trust and look for. So unless you have a really good resume, and a good resume are with good logos. That's what attract recruiters to your resume. And the next best thing, and actually the best thing, is to earn those referrals, which will get you past the ATS in front of either the recruiter or the hiring manager, and a human will actually look at your resume.
Alan, what do you say to people who don't have those logos, and they're like, look, I didn't go to MIT, I didn't previously work at Facebook, I'm just a smart, hardworking person who's worked, has a degree and worked at companies that were challenging, but they're just not household names. How do they kind of break through that noise?
Baby steps. You do what you can. So I graduated undergrad from Binghamton University. Very few people have heard of it outside of New York. That did not open up a lot of doors for me, but I figured out how to get a job at some pedunk little investment bank, Arnhold and S. Bleichorter, which probably no one has heard that before either. But then when I faxed in, and that's how old I am, when I faxed in my application to get a job at Payne Weber, doing the same thing I was doing at Arnhold and Bleichorter as an equity analyst, they looked at my resume because I faxed it in quickly and early. It was on a Bloomberg terminal, actually. And because I was doing the same exact thing, then Payne Weber looked at, or not Payne Weber, sorry, it was Oppenheimer at the time, which CIBC bought. And then I went from there to UBS. And then people heard of UBS. And so then you start adding some credibility to your resume. Um, so it's like it's not like I got from Binghamton to Google, although there are
Yeah.
some people that do that, but I went from Binghamton to like all these investment banks to Columbia Business School. So I had to figure out how to get to a top business school. Then American Express considered me after the top business school. And then Google considered me because I had Amex and Columbia Business School and a referral. That's how I got into Google. Despite all that, I submitted 5 resumes before getting an interview at Google, and the same resume, only after I had a referral did I get an interview at Google.
Yeah, and I guess we should probably also talk about how not all referrals are created the same. Like,
Yeah.
as an example, when I was at Google, very often I would have like a cousin's former roommate's friend who's like applying to Google, and they're like, "Oh, Tom, you're a director there. Can you refer so and so?" And I'm like, I mean, I can submit the name, but it's going to ask me how I know this person and have I worked with them and how would I rate them? And I really can't say much about it. So I think it does underscore like you've got to play the long game and make a good impression on people over a sustained period of time to get those like really kind of enthusiastic referrals.
100% agree. All referrals are not created equal. And I forget if it was like Google. Like I remember Google would ask a few extra questions because yeah, you'd always like if you work at Google, if you work at OpenAI, if you work at Microsoft, everybody wants to work there. So you're going to get all these requests at parties or from your cousin or whatever. And there would be a box, and if like Google would ask you some questions, I think Facebook might have said this or Salesforce. What sort of referral is this? A
Right.
professional one, I know the person professionally, a
Yep.
personal one, or a courtesy referral. A courtesy referral was basically like flushing it through like down the toilet. And then there was another one, actually, DEI. Is this a diverse, equity, or
Mhm.
inclusion candidate? And those would actually get a different path. And theoretically, it didn't always work, but they said they would always get a call and a
Mhm.
conversation. But I know for a fact that did not work 100% of the time.
Yeah. 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 I think the strongest ones are I worked with this person before. I have direct knowledge of their capabilities. I would rate them in the top 10% of the people out at Google today. Like that's a strong referral because I've also remember as a hiring manager looking at packets and then you could see what the referrals were saying. And if they're like, "Oh yeah, I went to school with Alan and then we worked together at this other company, he would fit in perfect, blah blah blah." You take that very seriously versus, "Oh, I met this person at a cocktail party and they seem fine."
Yeah, exactly. And I actually got 9 referrals into Google. I don't know if you remember how many you've gotten over your time.
Oh, I don't think so. You've gotten 9 that got hired.
Got 9 that got hired.
Yeah,
I only got paid for 6 because
you
a
got too
couple,
high.
like one was for my team,
Okay.
and then the other 2, no, I didn't get to. I was only level 7. I think a director you stop getting referral bonuses.
Yeah.
I left at level 7. And level 8 is directors for those that don't know at Google. But 2 of them, someone else had put a claim on before me or something, or they were previously put in the system. But 6 of them I got paid for.
Good on you. I think I only got like 3 or 4.
I was really good
Yeah,
at it.
you
And
were.
the way that you become good at it, and what I teach my clients also, and you might have done this for some of the ones that worked for you, is not only to submit it in of knowing the person, but if you are the referrer, the person referring the person, just shoot a note to the hiring manager
Yeah.
and say, "Hey, I just had coffee with this guy Tom." I wouldn't lie about it, but I'd be like, "He seems like a good dude. He went to HBS. He went to
Mhm.
Bowdoin undergrad, and and he asked really good questions. I think you should check him out."
Yeah.
And I wouldn't do anything more than that, but I would just send a note to the hiring manager, and the hiring manager would sometimes say, "Oh, we already have an internal candidate." Then I would get back to you and let you know that.
Mhm.
But that was a little like most people did not do that. I just did that because it was nice, and also I knew it would help. And plus, it was nice to get the $4,000 referral bonuses.
Indeed. I think that underscores like you as a referrer. In that case, you kind of went the extra mile. You didn't just go to the go/refer, fill out the
Right.
form, and go to your next meeting. You kind of took the time to figure out, like, okay, what roles are you looking for? Who's a hiring manager? Look up their LDAP, send
Yeah.
the, so that is work that you had to do.
It was a little work. Like, it
Yeah.
depends on who and what. If it was just a courtesy referral, like some dumbass at a bar, I was not doing that. But if it was someone that I had coffee with or something,
Right.
or got referred to me, and they seemed like they had a decent head on their shoulder, I appreciated how much advocacy I got from to get my resume reviewed externally. So to like shoot a note internally to say that someone's good. I also was a shareholder at Google. I wanted more good employees at Google.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a win-win. Tell me a little bit about, is it pronounced Kadima?
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about Kadima. Like, what do you guys do?
So Kadima is a Hebrew word which means forward. And when I was coming up with the name, like, our mission is to accelerate 1 million careers by 2040. And we help people get more interviews and then turn those interviews into offers, and then those offers into money. And I'm an operator by nature. Even though I've worked in marketing and sales and finance, I'm an operator. So we've basically broken down every part of job acquisition. I don't call it job search. We call it job acquisition, because you as a candidate are trying to acquire a job. And we help our clients get more interviews, get more offers, and then we help them negotiate for more. And then we help them in the first 90 days as well, because those first 90 days, I've struggled in my career sometimes. Like when I joined Google, it was some of the word, like my first 6 months there were pure hell. And it was more because I didn't know where to go to. I didn't know who to seek help from. I was afraid to ask for help.
Mm.
And I don't want other people to be thrown into the deep end without a life preserver.
Yeah, and how does Kadima work? Do the job acquiring agents, do those individuals pay a fee up front, or is it, how does the business model work for Kadima?
Yeah. So clients pay us upfront. We have two different programs. We have a group program, which is $2,500, and they can work with us for 6 months with a digital course, a group, master classes. And it is more of a group support and class. And we have a digital course which shows them step by step how to implement our system. And personalized coaching is $10,000. They are paired with an individual coach who they work with until they get a better job, and we guarantee them a better job. And all of our programs have a 30-day money-back guarantee. Very few people take us up on that, but we do offer that. And then with the personalized coaching, we also help negotiate for them, and that comes with the first 90 days as well. So we get them a job, we get them more money, then we help them hit the ground running. For 10K, we have payment plans as well.
That's pretty courageous of you to offer a guarantee like that. What gives you the confidence that these people would get a better job as a result?
The personalized coaching, we don't take everybody into. So we have to meet with them, and I review basically every application. I or a couple of people in my team, we need to be confident that we can get them a job. I can tell pretty quickly, like based on my experience at all these companies, based on a few attributes that we try to dig in on. Motivation. If the person is not truly motivated, it's damn hard to work with them to help them get their goal. Second is grit. Like, are they able to persevere and demonstrate tenacity, because they will get rejected multiple times. And then a growth mindset, because we do give people very direct feedback. It's in the interest to help them, but they need to be comfortable with receiving that feedback and implementing that feedback. So we have not a very scientific test. It's kind of a very, it's a gut call. But
Mhm.
because I've had so many, like I've interviewed probably 2,000 people in my career and looked at 10,000 resumes, I can get a pretty good gut call if someone is helpable or not. And we also the clients have 30 days to opt out. And usually if it's not a good fit, they will ask for their money back. But again, that happens less than 5% of the time, probably 3% of the time.
Alan, tell me a story or an example where you worked with a client and they really had a step change in their job kind of prospects, and what was it that you kind of helped them unlock to kind of get to that next level?
Yeah. So this woman, Danielle, she's probably fond of me saying her name. She's been on some of our testimonial videos. She was working as a program manager in marketing at TIA CREF,
Hmm.
and she was doing okay there, but she wasn't getting paid what she was worth, but she didn't think she was tech worthy. Um, but we were able to tell her that hey, if you're doing program management and operations with TIA CREF, you can do it anywhere essentially. We stretched her a little bit to think about some big tech companies. She actually got interviews with Google, I think with Stripe and others, and she actually got the offer at Meta when it was still called Facebook.
Hmm.
um, and she's now working at Facebook. They had to relocate her from the Boston area to Austin, Texas, which is beneficial for her because there's no tax, and they paid for her and her husband to go down there. And she's making more money. She's working at arguably one of the best companies in the world to work at, and it was really because she kind of broke through some of her limiting beliefs that she wasn't able to get into those companies, and she didn't see where she would fit necessarily within a tech organization coming from financial services. She did that, and she was actually after TI CREF at a consulting company before going to Meta, but she really didn't have that tech background. But there are so many roles in the tech companies that are marketing, finance, program management, customer success, sales,
Hmm.
operations. So we helped her to identify her positioning, work on her mindset, work on the interview prep as well, and we helped her negotiate as well.
Love it. Well, I'm so glad to hear that she landed in a great spot, and a little warmer weather than Boston as well.
It is, and I saw her in person last November, so it's nice to catch up with her when I travel down there.
Love it. Well, Alan, this has been a great chat. Are there any other topics that you want to share with the audience before we wrap up, or how can people learn more about what you guys do?
Yeah. So to find out more about what we do at Kadima, go to our website, Kadima Careers. It's on my shirt here, Kadima careers.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm very active there, and I always appreciate feedback and engagement there on LinkedIn. And also, we have a podcast as well, the Steer Your Career podcast. And we just had a good product guy over there, and we'll have you on there as well, Tom. I don't know if we have that set up, but if not, I will get you a link to join if you would like to be a guest.
Yeah, sounds
And
fun. Let's do it.
yeah, we'd love people to listen to our Steer Your Career podcast as well.
We'll turn the tables in the next episode. I love it.
Yes,
Uh,
I'll put you on the hot seat next.
sounds like a plan, Alan. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing the great advice about the importance of referrals and also the importance of like baby steps.
Yeah.
You don't have to try and shoot for the corner office at OpenAI as your next job. There are paths to get there, and people should check out Kadima and learn more about how they can get some help. So thanks for coming on, Alan.
Thanks a lot, Tom. Appreciate it.
Take care. See you
Bye-bye.
later. Bye. All right. So, cool advice from Alan. Look forward to our next conversation with him. Let me know in the comments what you think about Alan's advice. And I'd be curious if you have follow up questions that maybe Alan and I didn't touch on. And then either Alan and or I can reply to them in the comments below. So see you next time and have a great day. Bye, team.